people. In this video, as you can probably tell by the title, we are going to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to tell you a story of my first acid trip, my first experience on LSD, my first time taking acid and taking a lot of acid. So I hope my mom doesn't watch this. Mom, if you're watching this, or dad, or anybody in my immediate family, this is not a story about me. This is about a friend of mine whose name is but it's actually not me. It's a friend of a friend. What do we used to say, like back in the day? Someone swim, right? On these like online drug forums, they would say, like, in all capital letters, swim. It'd be like, swim decided to do this, and swim stands for someone who is not me. Yeah, I guess the not, you don't put that in there, whatever. Anyway, swim decided to do this. Okay, so my first acid trip. All right, let's tell this story. It's a funny story. So growing up, I was really anti-drugs, right? I was super anti-drugs, hated drugs. I was like the guy in the group of friends who, anytime anybody would like smoke weed or talk about smoking weed, I would like go off, like, it's so bad for you, drugs are so bad. How can you do this to yourself? Like, you're ruining your life, like, you fuck up your life, you're gonna die, like, whatever. All this, like, I would not let up with this kind of thing. One day, although this isn't the story of my first time smoking weed, we'll tell that in another one. Anyway, eventually I started smoking weed, and then when I started smoking weed, I was like, oh, well, actually, this isn't so bad. And then I took ecstasy one time, and that's another story. But after the first time I took ecstasy, it kind of like opened my mind to the possible drugs out there that can actually make you feel really good and enrich your life. Okay, so I became very curious about substances. And one of the substances that I was the most curious about was LSD. Because as far as I understood about LSD at the time, I thought that what's going to happen is you're just going to see some pretty colors, and music is going to sound better, and it's just going to be this like magical experience where like you just like everything is just more colorful and looks cooler, right? And those of you who have done acid before, I think you know where this is headed. But to be fair, that's not what acid is like really at all. I mean, that is part of it. You do, I guess, you know, your what you see is visually enhanced, but there is a very, very strong, let's call it reality bending component to acid that, I don't know, maybe in my like obsessive research, I kind of glossed over that or didn't really research it that carefully. But anyway, I knew this girl in my high school who had a crush on me, and she was like, I don't know, whatever, she had a crush on me, and she was a little raver kid. And I would tell her casually, I was like, I really want to try acid, I really want to try acid. So one day she brought me 4 sugar cubes with, you know, a tab of acid on them each, which is how people take it sometimes, or used to take it. And I kept them for a long time. And then one day I decided to take them. I played football. I was on the high school football team. And our coach was like this big shot in the high school football world. And he organized these games between city and, I forget what it's called, city and, I don't know, like the public school district and like the private school district, right? Like they would play these like all-star games occasionally. I don't know, I forget what the other one's called, city and something else. Anyway, he was one of the organizers of this game. And he asked for volunteers to come and volunteer at this game. Not to be paid workers, but to come and volunteer. So I volunteered, and so did my best friend at the time, who's also on the football team with me. And I thought for some reason this would be the perfect opportunity for me to try acid for the first time. Don't ask me why. I was like 16, maybe wasn't thinking so straight. So anyway, I take these 2 sugar cubes. I meet up with my friend. And he's driving there, thank God, oh my God. He's driving there, I pop these sugar cubes in my mouth, eat them. It took us about an hour to get to the football stadium. And on the way, didn't really feel anything. So I was like, oh, they didn't work. You know, I just didn't feel anything from them. So I was like, oh, it didn't work, I forgot about it. Before we go into actually work at the game, and I didn't tell my friend either. Also a mistake in retrospect, but whatever. Didn't tell my friend. And then before we like went to go work at the game, he was like, let's smoke a blunt. I'm like, okay, sure, because like we used to smoke a lot of weed together, whatever. So he rolls a blunt, and he, you know, starts smoking it, passes it to me. I take one hit of the blunt, and wow, I was fucking on the moon, like gone, right? I remember, I'll never forget it. I remember like, you smoke a blunt. Those of you who smoked weed before, sometimes it makes you cough, right? And I was coughing, and I was coughing, and like somehow my arm got like this. It's like holding onto the seatbelt or something. And I remember right when like everything started to kick in, I'm like laughing hysterically, and I was like, my arm's stuck. I can't move my arm. And I'm like just like cracking up, and my friend is looking at me, and he's like, dude, what? Like after a minute of this going on, me acting very strange, he's like, what's going on with you? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like this? And I was like, oh, by the way, I took 2 fucking tabs of acid before coming here on the way here. And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, and I'm like, I'm not freaking out in the car, but I'm just like, I'm experiencing the effects of the LSD, and I'm just like talking about how everything's tripping me out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm tripping so hard right now. I'm freaking out, man. Like, what's that over there? What's that over there? And meanwhile, in his mind, he knows we're about to go see my fucking football coach, who's like a fucking drill sergeant, and like a bunch of our other football coaches and a bunch of our other people on our football team who, they knew probably that I smoked weed. Most of the guys on the team did smoke weed. But acid is like another, it's kind of mysterious. People didn't really know about it so much back then. Still probably don't really know much about it. So he's thinking to himself, he's like, we're fucked. We're about to go see this like disciplinarian, and my friend here is not only high on weed, but like out of his mind on fucking hard drugs. So he says to me, he's like, dude, we're about to go see our football coach right now. You need to pull yourself together, like now, immediately. And I was like, oh shit, he's right. Fuck. Okay. And so like I try to gather myself, right? And we finish smoking the blunt, of course, and we like go pull up, and we go. I remember getting out of the car and thinking, like, there was like a football game. You're gonna have people that go to like attend the game, and there was a family of like a Mexican family, like a dad, mom, and like a couple kids, and I heard him talking, the Mexican guy talking, and I thought he sounded like a lion. So I said to my friend, I was like, oh fuck, is there a lion here? I just heard a lion. And he's like, dude, please, like, just hold yourself together. Like, you have to, like you wouldn't have a choice. Like, our coach is here, right? So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm fine. and thank God. Well, okay, whatever. I'll tell the story, give you this point afterwards. So our coach was black, right? This like offensive coordinator, the guy who was like running the game, was a black guy, and all the guys working for him were also black, right? And all the other team members who are football team members were black, and my friend and I were the only white ones. He was Persian, but like dark hair, dark eyes, kind of like olive skin. And I was basically the whitest one, right? I also kind of have darker skin and darker-ish hair, but like my eyes are a little bit light, and my hair was short, so my hair looks lighter when it's short. So we go, and like we're talking to the coaches, and like the game's gonna start in like maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes or something. Like, say hi to our friends, whatever. And I'm like, I think they just thought I was high or something, because like they gave me, I remember one of the coaches in charge of the guys working there. He's like, okay, what I want you to do, he like gave me some posters and some tape. He's like, you see that wall over there? I want you to go put this poster up on that wall. And I'm like, okay. And like I'm thinking to myself, like, I can do this. I can do this. All right. So like, I walk over to the wall, which is, I don't know, 30 feet, maybe 50 feet, let's say, like not far, not like way over in the distance, but for me, it might as well have been like miles away, right? Or there were 2 walls or something like that, like one after another, not far away. You could see them both from where we were. So I walk over to the wall, and somehow, I don't know how I did it, but I managed to like tape this poster to the wall, right? Like, no idea how I did it. And then I went and did it with the other one. Remember, after I did it with the other one, I'm like looking around, and I felt so lost. I was like, oh shit, like, where am I? How did I get here? Like, what do I do now? And then somehow, like, I ended up making it back to like the coach, and my friend was also there. My friend like didn't say anything. He was just kind of like looking at me at the corner of his eye. And I think the other like guys on my team were also high. So like, and probably the guys working there were also fucking high. Like, all these guys smoke weed. Like, it's not like, these were not like straight edge guys. It's just that you can't really like be on drugs in front of your coach and have him know you're obviously on drugs. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't do that. One of those things you don't do. So the best part of the story is that like the game's going to start maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And there's like all of us there. It was like me, my friend, maybe like 4 or 5 other guys, all black guys. And the like head assistant in charge or whatever looks at all of us, and he says to me, he's like, okay, are you good at math? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, you're gonna be on the cash register. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. I'm out of my mind, right? And like, because I think it was because I was like the only white guy there, and he was probably, and okay, I'm racist, whatever, fine, but like, it's not me making the calls here at all. I think he just thought that like, because I was the only white guy, I was probably least likely to steal. Fine, I'm racist, whatever. But this is what he's thinking, I think. And maybe I was also the best at math. You know, like the guys on my team were not from good neighborhoods, from like, you know, I don't know, Watts, Dorsey, like that area. Not the best, right? Probably not. Didn't have like private school education like I did, or some private school education. Anyway, put me on the fucking cash register. Meanwhile, I can't even like put a poster up on the wall 20 feet away without like forgetting where I am, like trying to unravel the mysteries of the universe. And he gives me a cash box, tells me, he's like, okay, and I'll never forget it. Like, he puts me on this like fold out table. He's like, okay, programs are $7, t-shirts are $15. You know, this like little sticker is like $4. Like, boom, 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 with like 6 or 7 items. I want you to stand here and like, here's $100 in change. Sell to anybody who comes over here. Try and sell as much as you can. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem, right? And I had to spend that entire game making change for people who wanted to buy things and answering questions. People like, how much is this? How much is that? Doing math in my head, right? Like, grab a program, like, okay, give me 2 t-shirts, give me a program, and give me like this water bottle, whatever. So like, I grab all that stuff, and there was no calculator, there was no fucking actual cash register. It was like a box with a slit in it, you know? And he's like, okay, like, and it's like $41 or something. And the guy would like hand me like 320s. I have to like think in my mind, okay, like, do the math. I did it perfectly. Let me tell you, I did everything fucking on point perfectly. Did not have one slip up. Did not fuck up at all, like with any sort of math. I crushed it for those guys. I was so into the like wheeling and dealing, and this was before I had any sales experience at all. I was just so into like the actual work that I was like, you know, because at halftime the guy came and he was like, looked at like how much we had sold, and he's like, okay, and he like reduced the price. So at that point, I knew that like we could reduce the prices, and he really just wanted to get rid of as much stuff as he could before the game was over, because it was an all-star game, and all the like t-shirts were like, you know, all-star game, whatever, 1999, city and county or state or whatever it's called. So he's like, okay, like t-shirts are now $10, programs are now $5, just try and sell as much as you can for the game's over. And he would came back like 2 or 3 more times. Anyway, I'm like wheeling and dealing with these people. I'm like, all right, I'll give you another t-shirt for this much, give you another program for this much, blah, blah, blah. And like most of the attendees were either black or Mexican. So I don't know, more open to like haggling, I guess, wheeling and dealing, let's call it. You know, some white people also, but less, just because of, you know, whatever, where we were. Most people who play high school sports, at least in LA or California, are, you know, it's not like a lot of like white people who play, really. You know, at the private schools, and this was city versus essentially private schools. I just don't remember a lot of white people there. There were, for sure, but just more black and Mexican. Anyway, I managed to do the entire game perfectly, making change. I honestly, like, sorry coaches out there, but I stole like $250 from the cash register. I was like, okay, like, nobody's around me. There's nobody watching me. So I remember I did it so elaborately. Like, I palmed like $20 or $50 or something. I was like, there's no way these guys are not gonna count how many programs they sold, because I was selling a lot. I sold hundreds of t-shirts, hundreds of programs, like a ton of stuff. And he was like mixing up the prices, and I wasn't writing anything down. So like, these guys are gonna have no idea how much money like I actually sold worth of stuff. I can really, I mean, I don't wanna say steal as much as I want, but I could steal, I could skim a couple $100 off the top. There's a lot of money in there. So I did, and at the end of the game, like I would say like fourth quarter, because you know people start to leave, like there's like a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter, people are gonna leave, right? So another coach comes back, and my friend came to check on me at one point. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. He's like, okay, I was kind of worried about you. So anyway, the coach comes back like a couple minutes, you know, 5-10 minutes before the game's supposed to end, and he's like, okay, like sell everything. I don't care how much you sell it for, just get rid of it. I was like, okay. So I grabbed like, I took one hand and I took like as many t-shirts as I could hold. I was literally standing around, and everybody that would walk by, like, hey, do you want to buy a t-shirt? $5, right? And so people, they'll buy fucking t-shirts for $5. Like it was 15 previously. They'll buy for 5. They'll buy 4 for $20, right? So I'm like wheeling and dealing, making all these deals with people. Like the game is over, people are flooding out. At this point, like the other people from my football team had come, and we're all doing basically what I was doing, like holding t-shirts, selling them, selling programs. By the end of it, I remember because I put I put the cash that I had stole in my back pocket, and the money that I was like getting for the, you know, that I was going to give to them really was in my front pockets, right? And I had fat wads of cash in either pocket, and not just ones. They were not singles. It's not like stripper style right here. It's like 20s, 10s, 5s. Like these guys made bank because of me. Whatever. Anyway, that costs fine. I'm not like excusing the fact that I stole from them. It was wrong for sure, and I can't really blame the acid because like I knew what I was doing. Anyway, I remember at the end of it, like one of the guy was basically like, you know, I gave him the cash box, and he was like, okay, and like, what about the rest of it? And like, I pulled out both my pockets and gave him 2 massive handfuls of cash, and he's like, okay, that's it, right? Except for what you got. I remember, I'll never forget. He's like, except for what you got in your pockets, right? And I was like, what? What pockets? What do you mean? I don't have anything. He's like, yeah, whatever you got in your pockets. And I was like, he said it again. He said it like 2 or 3 times. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Look, my pockets. You want to check? Like, you know, and I don't know. I don't really know if I like thought this far ahead, but I was like, okay, if he asked me about the money in my back pocket, I'll just say it's mine. I brought it from home. Like, how's he gonna know? He's gonna know like I didn't bring $200 to a fucking football game? How would he know? Anyway, whatever. Didn't really plan it out so well, clearly, as you can tell by my lack of planning in the story. But anyway, I ended up leaving with my friend, same one that I came with, and I told him the story basically about how I was out of my mind the entire fucking time, because acid lasts a long time. You trip, you take it, and it's not like 2 or 3 hours, like a couple drinks or weed or something, where you get the peak and then that's it. You are like out of your mind for like a good 8 hours, like sometimes more. And I took for my first dose, I think the tabs, I don't really know, I have no way of checking, but I think they were like at least like 100 micrograms or 150 micrograms each. So like a 200 microgram dose minimum, 200 to 300 for your first dose is a lot, okay? Especially like if a virgin system like mine was a lot to trip on in a public place with no experience tripping high, also on like some really strong kush. I was gone, you know, very lucky that things went the way that it did. And the point that I was going to say earlier is that I remember reading, because I used to go on arrowid.org, for those of you like old school like drug people out there. Arrowid.org is a non-profit site that has a lot of drug information on it. It has trip reports. It has like recipes for like cooking whatever drugs you want to cook. Like I obviously didn't do that. I read a lot of trip reports about every single drug, and it had like the effects and like, you know, like all this like actual information. And I remember reading in one of the trip reports, somebody said people don't know that you're tripping unless you tell them, right? Unless you actually say I'm fucked up. They're not going to know. To them, you just look normal. And I remember thinking that, and I was like, thank God I had that thought in my mind when I was working, because I just kept thinking to myself, like, nobody knows I'm tripping unless I tell them, straight up. And I managed to work the entire game well. Like, these guys made bank because of me. Yeah, I sold fucking $200. Arguably, I would have sold that money anyway. Really, at the time, I was not like stand-up citizen that I am now. Anyway, I get in the car with my friend, relate this experience to him, and I'm literally like howling at the moon at this point, like screaming, like, yeah, like fucking, we're both screaming in the car, like so excited that like managed to come out of the situation unscathed. We ended up going to a party, and I was not the most social person, so not super common for me to go to a party. Anyway, I went to a party here. It was very social. Ended up smoking more weed, and the acid came back. Started to trip again, and I was like, oh fuck, like I can't do this again. Like, anyway, ended up leaving the party, going back to my friend's house, went to sleep, saw like a bunch of weird tracers on the ceiling. Very hard to fall asleep. That was my first experience with LSD. So, I don't know, was that interesting to anybody? Do you guys care at all? Do you want to hear more drug stories? I got a lot of drug stories, really. Yeah, anyway, tell me about what you think. Was that an interesting story to you? Did you like that story? Should I tell more drug stories? Am I a bad person for stealing the money? Maybe. Tell me, have you ever done acid? What was your experience like with LSD? I would like to know. I am curious. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Tell me if you guys have suggestions for other types of videos like this. Let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.